Almost from ancient times, India was known as the land of kings, the land of Maharajas, the land of emperors. Well, now you can get a taste of that royal India by going to some of India's best palaces. Here are my 5 tips for the top palaces. Remember that many of these palaces have been turned into hotels, so it's not always easy to get in, and often it can be expensive. Tip number 1 has to be the Lake Palace in Udaipur. It's probably the most famous palace in India. It's a beautiful palace set in the middle of Lake Pichola. It gleams out into the night, it gleams during the day, and when you're in there, you realize why the Maharanas of Udaipur treated this as their fun place, as their pleasure palace. It's a hotel, so it's difficult to get in unless you're prepared to stay there. But hey, once in a while, we can all splash out. Because I picked a palace hotel for tip 1, I'm going to pick a palace that's accessible to everybody for tip 2. That's Amer, just outside Jaipur. It's a royal residence where the Maharajas of Jaipur used to live before the city was built. It's an incredibly royal experience because the only way you can really get up is on the back of an elephant. And don't worry, it's quite easy to do that. You go up and you see the most wonderful vistas of Jaipur, and you see the royal quarters and see how Maharajas actually lived in medieval times. Well, I've told you about a palace hotel, I've told you about a palace. So here's tip 3. It's neither of those. It's a whole royal city. The city of Fatehpur Sikri was planned by the Emperor Akbar famously as his capital. The entire court shifted from Delhi to Sikri, which is in Agra, and eventually the whole capital was abandoned. Nobody knows why. One theory is that Akbar had forgotten to provide for water. But it's still there, and if you go to Agra, I think it rivals the Taj in its beauty and its magnificence. It's the royal idea of how people should live. There's a Diwan-e-Aam, a Diwan-e-Khas, and there are the Emperor's royal quarters. It's open to anybody. Go and see it. That's the glory of India. You know, when we talk about palace hotels, we usually mean Rajasthan, but that's not actually accurate. So for the next 2 tips, I'm going to recommend great palace hotels that are not in Rajasthan. Tip 4 is the Palace Hotel, now run by the Lalit Group in Srinagar. It's the original Palace Hotel, possibly the first palace hotel in the world. In the late 1950s, Maharaja Karan Singh, as he then was, gave his palace to the Oberoi Group and told them to turn it into a hotel. The Oberois ran it successfully for many years. The Lalit Group runs it as successfully now. It's very different from Rajasthani palaces because it's built differently. It's got acres and acres of grounds, a golf course even, and it's surrounded by green mountains. Go there, feel the beauty, and realize what Kashmiriyat is all about. Tip 5 is India's most unusual palace hotel. The Falaknuma Palace in Hyderabad was not the residence of the Nizams. It was built and became a guest house for foreign visitors, mainly foreign kings and emperors. Therefore, the style is part Hyderabadi and part Venetian. It's very influenced by the architect Palladio and his work, a style of architecture that you find in English country houses and is called Palladian. Go there just for the architecture, if not for anything else. I don't think there's a single building like it anywhere else in the world. It's a seamless marriage of East and of West, and of course, of the royal traditions of Hyderabad. I love beaches, so I'm sure do you. Everyone loves beaches, and maybe that's the problem. Because everyone loves beaches, they're all too crowded. So here are 5 tips, 5 beaches that are slightly off the beaten track. Number 1 is one you probably haven't heard of. It's Ganpati Phule in the Konkan coast. It's named for the famous Ganpati temple. It's not far from Ratnagiri. It's got culture, it's got sand, it's got sea, and it's got this amazing air of peace that you'll hardly ever find in a beach resort. Tip number 2 is Puri. If you live in the east or if you know the east, you'll know that Odisha has some of India's best beaches, and Puri is certainly top of that list. It's got the most amazing waves you're likely to see in the sea. It's got white sands. The local make sand sculptures. There's the temple. And yes, there are bits of the beach that are quite crowded, but there are some very nice private parts as well. Tip number 3 is Kapu. You know, one thing that people who don't know the South very well do not often realize is that Bangalore is by no means representative of Karnataka. The Mangalore region, in terms of the sea, in terms of the greenery, in terms of the countryside, is really a continuation of Kerala, one of the most beautiful parts of India. And Kapu, which is in Mangalore near Udupi, is a wonderful beach. It's historical as well. There's a lighthouse that's over a century old, and the beach is isolated, desolate, and wonderful. Tip number 4 is Goa. I know it's difficult to think of something that's really off the beaten track in Goa, but I have a special affection for Vagator. It's a beach that's famous for trance parties. People from all over the world come there. It's got red cliffs, it's got natural water springs, it's got wonderful natural features also, but basically it's an internationally hip beach, and it's time as Indians we reclaimed it for ourselves. Now, the backwaters of Kerala are unusual because they flow into the sea, yet they're still water, they're not flowing water. So that's tip number 5, Marari Beach on the backwaters of Kerala. It's near the town of Alleppey, and it's unusual because you have a sense of undergrowth and lush greenery, plus you have a beach, you have flowing water but no waves, and you have the most perfect white sand.